All right. Happy Monday, everyone. How you guys doing? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Over by me, it's really nice out, so I'm enjoying this weather as much as I can for the little bit of time I've been awake so far. But it's good to see everyone. If you guys don't know who I am, my name is John or Johnny, either or. Um, Basically, I have a particular style of trading which I teach. It's primarily called the ABC method, to where it is a modified version of Elliott Wave. I'll go ahead and explain more into what the strategy is at some point if anyone has any specific questions. But pretty much all we do is identify trends in groups of threes, and then from there we go ahead and if it's this is a short setup, so if we get an uptrend, downtrend, and extension past the A, we're basically shorting every single time price gets back below. Right. And then vice versa for the long position. So in a long position, it's a downtrend, uptrend, downtrend. Let me change this to green. And pretty much every time price gets back above the pivot of the A, we're going to go ahead and take a buy position. All right. This is just an example. And so today we're going to be going over my thoughts and analysis on how I view the market through my perspective, how I trade things. If you guys are interested, and learning more from me, this is a good opportunity for you guys to go ahead and ask questions, whether you're in the Discord or whether you are watching via YouTube or Twitch. And yeah, just gonna go over my TA. A lot of you guys ask me any questions. And guys, if the session's over or after the session, if you have any more questions or you do decide to want to learn more from me, my YouTube channel link is in the description below. Of if you guys are watching via YouTube or in Twitch. But if you guys are interested in the Discord, my information will be provided. Definitely, guys, I would appreciate you guys go out check out the channel. I stream 3 times a week where you guys be able to go ahead and ask me questions similar to a session like this. But this is a little bit more of a personal, more one-on-one experience where you guys can go ahead and we can chat back and forth about certain things. So without further ado, let me just go ahead and just do one thing here. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and get started. So first things first, the first thing I like to do is kind of clear my chart and focus on the larger term perspective. All right. And from there, we're going to be focusing primarily, like I said, just on ABCs, where we're looking for downtrends, uptrends, and downtrends, continuation downtrends. So here's a good example. Actually, let me do uptrend, pullback trend, continuation trend. Right. This would be a bearish reversal setup. Right. And this would have been the setup that started the bear market. And, I could sit here and draw ABCs all day, but this is another thing I want to go over at some point as well. But bearish ABCs all the way down. Right. That's just an example, but we're going to be focusing just on a larger perspective on a larger market and or at least the macro details and kind of, pick apart what could be going on here. First things first, since this is the beginning of the bear market, I'm just going to primarily be focusing on pretty much here to the right. All right. And what we're going to be doing is the first question we need to ask is, can we identify an ABC within the entirety of this trend? The answer to that question to me is yes. This is pretty clear as day. With each one of these waves, you have your own set of ABCs, which is something I like to see myself and something I try to show you guys as well that who are learning this, that usually each individual set of waves will have its own ABC, whether it's on the time frame that the time frame or perspective that we trade, or you're looking at the more macro. A lot of the times you'll find much larger ABCs to go ahead and complete each individual set of waves here. So let me go ahead and just clear this up just so you guys can get a better view. And pretty much, we have a completed ABC. So the question is, have we bottomed? Are we going to bottom? There's a lot of different ways you can approach that, but according to the method that we use, we can use this 32,775 pivot in order to confirm a little bit more of a bullish bias. That's something we'll focus on later streams, just because we're not necessarily there yet. But I just do want to highlight that technically this would be the pivot to get back above if you wanted to get a little bit more bullish in the market. But with that being said, the question really is, are we done? Is this the beginning of something? That's a couple things we have to look over. The first option that we're going to go over here, since it's right in front of us, is technically, yes, we do have a completed ABC with a nice break of structure or a nice break of the larger trend. And you could definitely make the argument that perhaps maybe we bottom. And I'm okay with that. If you guys want to go ahead and think that way, I would not fight you on that whatsoever. That is a very justified opinion or perspective that you can have, and I definitely wouldn't. I can't argue much about that. But what are the other options? One of the other options is that sometimes what you'll see is, especially this is more common in the smaller perspective that we focus on, but a lot of the times we do when we find ABCs, sometimes that might become part of a um, larger wave. So in this case, this yellow line would represent a larger A. Maybe have something like this, be a larger B. All right. And then you can most likely find a continuation of the C like that. It makes these a little bit messy, but if I take away the orange lines, that's its own ABC. All right. And that's kind of what the question at hand is. Is this ABC part of a larger A, or is it its own completed wave? And maybe this is the bottom of the bear market. If this is going to be part of a larger A, the question is, is this going to be a B, or is this possible? It really depends on where this A wants to go. At the moment, I don't really have a clear answer for that. All I know is that we are in a continuous uptrend with the potential of going a lot higher. To me, this signifies a much larger break in structure. So this could be you could make an argument for this being an A wave to a B wave, and then we're possibly looking for a C wave. Okay. Definitely in the cards. Me personally, I think I think we might be on or working on this version of the macro perspective, in my opinion. Second place would probably be that we bottomed. There's one more that I want to go over that's very similar to the one I just explained, that maybe we're possibly making a top here, and then we're going to be putting in one more smaller quick dip to the downside, maybe not put in that 10K low that everyone's talking about. Me personally, if we reverse from here and put in that lower low, I don't think it's going to be as strong as a push. I could be wrong. But I have to basically identify the level of support that it needs to come break. And to me, it's at 15,450. If we come back below and put in a quick reversal, retest and then continue upward, that would complete a larger bear market structure for me, but doesn't necessarily have to happen. And to me as well, if we do continue to extend upward, I think the probabilities of us seeing much lower levels do increase. So that's something I'm keeping in mind. That's something I will pay attention to as price continues to develop. At the moment, I just don't have a clear-cut answer. But that's something we can build upon as price continues to develop. But pretty much that's it for the larger perspective. And this is something I keep in mind when I go into the main perspective, main setups that I trade, or the main time frame, is because sometimes it can help kind of understand what could be coming next. I don't necessarily take those macro guidelines to heart. To me, it's more of, okay, if this is going to happen, what does price show me, or how does price show that it's going to get there, if that makes sense. From there, we can go to our main perspective. Now, if you guys are new to how I do things, primarily what I do is I like to go to 1 to 2 hour. All right. And then from there, if you guys are watching, or unfortunately, if you guys are on the Discord, I won't be able to see this, but I do this for demonstrative purposes. But the main goal is about perspective. Okay. You want to be able to stick to a 1 to 2 hour time frame and zoom out as far as you can. All right. I'm holding a little prop mouse in case you guys can't see me, but you want to zoom out as far as you can. You can go to a 2 hour and do something like this, very pinch, zoom in like this and try to trade every single small setup here, and you're not going to have a good time. I can promise you that now. So for me, it's all about perspective. To me, the best perspective to keep an eye out on is around the 1 to 2 hour. To me, if you can see a nice clear setup on the 2 hour, that is a very solid setup with a lot of potential to hold. To me, we have this bearish ABC here. So as long as we maintain below this pivot of the A, Price is going to be bearish. Now, at the moment, you can see it's kind of fighting in this region. And sometimes that does happen with these larger macro pivots. We are stuck between that pivot here and the resistance of the previous high over here. So for me personally, it looks like we're just kind of fighting in between. Price is having a hard time making a decision of which direction it wants to go. But as long as price is below that level, I'm going to be shorting. And basically, obviously, you set your stop losses appropriately as you short. Right now, I'm not currently in a trade because I've been stopped out of that position, but I have the bot working for me, basically waiting for price to get back below, and we're going to be going ahead and taking positions whenever needed. Whenever we need to get back down here. If we do continue to come back down to this region, if we do decide to reverse. Now, keep in mind when I talk about these setups, sometimes they don't necessarily hold, which is, it does happen occasionally. But our goal here and how I do things is to find the best probable setup, the setup with the highest probability to go in our favor. And the best way to put yourself in a situation is to focus on much larger time frames. To me, this is a larger A to a B to a C. This is a much larger, very clear bearish setup, in my opinion. So I'm going to be taking that every time. All right. So keeping that in mind, like I said, the entry for that pivot is around 24,319. Guys, if you guys are going to take this short, just make sure you zoom in and make sure you get the exact top. It's the only time I ever recommend zooming in. Is to make sure you get an exact entry. So around 24,280 is going to be that pivot. And as long as we continue to hold below that, we do have a bearish bias. We have a little bit of a bearish bias. Now the question is, going back to a decently large time frame, we'll go to a 3-hour. Same question as for the major macro setup before. Is this ABC the end of something? Or are we working on a possible larger A, maybe to a B, and then upwards towards a C? Or is this going to be the completed structure of the B wave, and then we're just going to work our way down? That's the main question at hand. Unfortunately, I don't have the answer to that at the moment. The best thing I can do is take that position and let price show us what it wants to do. But at that moment, we do not have an answer for that question currently. So keeping that in mind, that's pretty much the main position I'm looking for. Another thing I want to highlight as well is that I am also holding longs. Well, okay, not on BTC, but for ETH. But I was holding a long position for this. This was an A, B to a C with an A, B, C within the C. To me, this showed a much larger completed potential B wave, which ended up for now being the bottom of at least this pullback. So we'll have to see if this holds. So at the moment, I'm currently I would be having these two positions fight. I have a very similar position on ETH that I'm holding at the moment. I'll go ahead and illustrate that or highlight that when we get to it. But that's pretty much it for BTC at the moment. I'm shorting here, holding longs down here, and basically we're going to see who wins. That's the beauty about how we do things. A lot of the times, after doing this for a while, you'll end up in two opposing positions at good pivots, and basically price will decide which way it wants to go. You benefit either direction. So yeah, that's pretty much it for ETH. I'm sorry, for BTC. Let's go ahead and go to Ethereum. All right, so Ethereum's pretty much the same. It's just a little bit, it's just playing out a little bit differently. Same question as BTC in the beginning. Can we identify a macro setup? We can. We have a macro A to a B to a C. Now the question is this the beginning of something or the end of something? You could make a claim that this is the end of the bear market that we put in the bottom. Fantastic. I would not be opposed to that whatsoever. The other alternative is perhaps maybe this ABC is the beginning of a larger A. We're possibly putting in a B here, or we might be putting in a larger B here. I'll go ahead and explain the alternatives here. And then at some point, maybe we're looking for a larger C. Now, that depends where the B wants to end up. Now, the question at hand for the B wave is it done, or are we continuing to build and we're possibly going to put it in its own ABC, right? Something like this. A to a B to a C. Now, to me, like I said, you can make claims for both. I would not be opposed to either or. If we do come in, put in one more higher high, let's say we show weakness around that 2032 region. Come on, work with me. Yeah, 2039 is good enough. If we come up above that pivot of the A and we kind of put in some, we struggle to hold that region and fall back below, that can definitely give us a much larger potential B before coming down and putting to a C here, right? The other alternative is that maybe we don't come up and put in this high. Maybe this was just a B wave, and then perhaps we're working on a larger A to a B to a C, which also could be in the cards as well. Or at the very least, maybe um, we can go back to the larger, or sorry, the second setup I talked about, and maybe we're putting in a larger B wave before coming in higher for a larger C wave. That I would not be opposed to either. That's more on the bottom of my, I guess, priority list of what I think is most likely. I will absolutely take that trade if needed. If we do not put in a higher high, um, but that really depends on how the rest of the structure develops. But absolutely could be in the cards as well. I will keep that 2032 level marked just because that is an important pivot. And yeah, besides that, like I said, we could be just coming in down and putting in one larger ABC, A to a B to a C. We could be coming and putting one more low. The best thing about this is that unfortunately, even though it sounds not so good, I do not know exactly where price is going to go. But we do have the proper setups to take, or at least to look out for, in case that is the possibility for either one of these scenarios. But let's go ahead and focus in on the smaller time frame, and let's get a better picture of what could be going on here. All right, so we're at a 2 hour, and if this is going to be an A to a B to a C, what do we need in this area of price action to get there? For me personally, I need to see something like this. This is an A to a B and then one larger C. Okay. This is going to illustrate a larger potential A wave. All right. And if we are going to get up to 2032, if we do not just shoot straight up from here, I would like to see price put in a decent pullback before continuing higher and putting in that higher high. That's ideally what I would like to see. We'll have to wait and see how price behaves, but at the moment, that's what I'm looking for if we're going to test that 2032 region, something along those lines. If we do not put in that, let me backtrack a little bit. If, let's say, this pivot of the first touch at 2032 is the high, and maybe we're working on something like this, what is the structure that we need to see? Well, it's very similar to what we were working with before. A to a B to a C is an A. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I messed that up. It's A to a B to a C, which should be the larger A wave here. Let me make sure I got that right. Hold on. A, B. It's not a lower low. B, C, B, C. This is the A, is the B, this is the C. Okay, so this would be the A, the B, the C. That's how I would draw this. And then there's an ABC within the C wave. All right, and we are currently holding below the pivot of the A here. So we do have a possible bearish reversal setup that we're working with here. And you can see we're kind of fighting below this region. And I'm currently short as long as we're below that pivot. And I'm looking for lower if this is going to be the case. If this setup fails significantly, me personally, I think we're going to come up and test that 2032 region. There's not really much resistance in between. You have this little area around 1795, 1798, that little pocket of resistance. But to be honest, I think we're going to come up and test 2032 and possibly go even higher if that level of resistance does fail. So that's something that's to keep an eye out for. So keeping that in mind, I am shorting that level. I am also long off of this region here. All right, so within the B wave, which you saw highlighted before, there is an ABC within the C wave of this larger B. All right, to me, this puts in a larger potential completed B wave Now, if we do shoot up to the upside, I am still currently holding this long position at around 1488. And from there, we're going to be going ahead and holding that until we get a larger continuation setup, which is something I'll go over next if you guys have any questions on how to take profit and all that stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much the main two positions I'm holding for ETH at the moment. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. I'm pretty sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah. Okay. Let me go ahead and just double check on the Discord here. Make sure you guys don't have any questions in case I miss anything. Let's see, Skinny D. Oh wait, no, that was the other day. Bedarius, we know we know your mouse. Yeah. All right, so let's go over to go back to the charts. Let's go over LTC. All right, we're going to start off with the same with LTC at the moment. We're going to be looking at this as a larger A, B, C, A to a B to a C. Like I said, the question is this done or is this possibly this leg the beginning of something? This is a little bit more difficult in my opinion. I would personally say if we haven't bottomed here, that this is looking like a larger A to a B to a C. And then for, like I said, for me personally, it depends on the outcome of how price behaves in this region. But we could be looking at a larger completed ABC here, or maybe we're looking for an extension of the C. This is a little bit more, this would make more sense in my opinion if we are going to test a lot lower lows. I'll kind of have to wait and see how this behaves and how this plays out in the future. But if that is the case, unfortunately for LTC, because it's developed a little bit differently, there's not too many long positions that I would be confident in taking for LTC at the moment. You do have a nice spot buying opportunity at this green line. Something to consider off of this ABC within the C if this is a bottom. So I personally have bought a little bit of spot, not too much, and I'm probably going to be holding that indefinitely, or at least hold it for a while. But just keeping that in mind, we're going to go on and move on to a smaller perspective. Now, remember, we're looking for a way to get down to this $40 region, if that is the case. All right. And also, if we have bottomed, what's the rest of the structure look like? So I go to a 3. Can I do a 3 hour? Yeah, I can do a 3 hour. All right. So on a 3 hour, we do have a possible A to a B to a C. That's going to complete A wave. We have a very sharp B, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but it did happen. And we have an A to a B to a C for the C wave. I'll go ahead and illustrate that. I'll get rid of. It's pretty much the larger completed structure. There's a couple of days to keep an eye on. If that is the case, the macro pivot's going to be around 85.24. For me personally, I'm probably going to be waiting to take a short at that region just because all the price action in this area has been a little bit congestion. I would say there's a lot of traffic in this region. I'm not the biggest fan of trying to play the move on the C leg of LTC. But if I go to a 2 hour, you could absolutely make an argument for this being an A to a B to a C. And you could, if you did decide to short up here, I definitely wouldn't have any arguments against that. Definitely a decent setup. On a 2 hour time frame, it's pretty clear. Even if I zoom out a little bit, it still shows a clear separation in trend. So for me personally, like I said, I'm not shorting till we get down and back below this pivot of this A here. But if you did decide to short about 103, 102.85, I would definitely not knock you for it. But at the moment, there's no significant positions in the upside or to the long to the upside direction. I don't see any good setups worth taking, in my opinion. You do have this smaller one that some people have pointed out to me. Me personally, it's not as clear as the BTC and ETH positions, but like I said, you probably could have gotten away with this. I personally probably wouldn't have recommended this just because of how how congested this area price action looks, I think that I'm just not the biggest fan of that setup. That's just me personally, though. Um, and that's pretty much it for LTC at the moment. If you guys want me to go, so usually what I do is I'll pick an altcoin and then I'll let you guys pick one as well. So if you guys want to, I'm gonna do the altcoin I want to look at. I think I'm gonna do KDA. Let me just make sure. Um, Let me just see. All right, I'm gonna do ADA, and I'll let you guys pick the other one. So while I'm doing that, I'll wait for you guys to decide. And then I'll go ahead and do TA on the other one. Now, I like doing ADA because it's a little bit of a challenge for me. To me, I have a very hard time breaking up this individual part of waves here. To me, on a larger scale, this just looks like one giant wave. I do not like that, to say at the very least. What I will say is that to me, this is a clear separation in trend. Um, and that could be a potential A, maybe a B, and then a C here. Like I said, I am not the biggest fan of that. Another thing you could say, another argument you can make is that maybe this is a larger A to a larger B, and we're working on an A. Right? Where's the bottom? This is the double bottom. So A, B, C. And then this would complete the C leg. Now, the question is this done or is this the beginning of something? It could be either or. If this is the end, um, we definitely have some areas of resistance to overcome. This would be the pivot of the ABC within the C, which you can see we're currently fighting at the region right now. And then also we do have that macro pivot A at around 74.68. But me, I'll be primarily focusing on this. If this is the beginning of something, I would like to see something like this happen. Like I said, this sometimes my perspective, my opinion doesn't necessarily have to come to exact fruition, but we can get pretty damn close. I would like to see something like this come up, at least come up and test possibly the resistance here, and then come back down lower. But it's probably gonna take a very long time to get that. If so, we'll have to see and focus on this area of price action here. The other option, which I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of as well, is that you can possibly make an argument for this. Um, like I said, I'm just not the biggest fan of this one, just because it seems like this is all just too continuous for me. But definitely could be in the cards as well. I would not um I would not deny that this is a possibility, but to me, I'm not the biggest fan of this. If that is the case, or if these scenarios are the case of what we should be looking at, let's go over to a small, quote unquote, smaller perspective. All right. And then let's focus on what's possibly going on in this area of price action. The only thing I can see that's significant on a 2-hour time frame, me being completely zoomed out, is I do see a nice ABC short setup here. All right. And we are currently fighting underneath that pivot. So as long as ADA is below 41.57, we should be at least a little bit more bearish. Doesn't necessarily mean this has to hold, guys. Just keep in mind, we are fighting between a macro bullish pivot and a smaller time frame bearish pivot. So honestly, this can go either way. But if this is the case, I will definitely look at this as a short position to go ahead and at the very least take and hold this down to a larger pullback before continuing higher. Worst case scenario you can make is that maybe we're done here and we're just going to slowly work our way back to put in lower lows. That is the case. That's the ideal situation for what you're looking for in the short position. You're looking to take advantage of as much price action as you can and hopefully ride the entire wave down. Or like I said, if the market shows that it wants to give us a bullish position, in this case, some sort of larger A, B, C down here, we can go ahead and take a long position and try to ride the wave up. Something like that. All right, just an example purposes. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see if the market does decide to give us that opportunity. If not, we just ride the wave until we can't do it no more. And that's pretty much it for ADA at the moment. That's significant. Let's go ahead and check Discord. William, hey, Johnny, sorry I'm late. I'll catch the replay. No problem, William. No worries. Does anybody want anything else? What's another coin you guys want to see? All right, but Arius picks Soul. All right, we can do Soul. Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay, we did put in a higher high. All right, so first things first, I want to focus on this because this is kind of relevant right now. We do have a possible reversal setup on Soul. You guys are interested in shorting that. The entry, you're pretty much a little bit below the entry at this point. I personally would wait to get as close of an entry as possible to that pivot, but definitely a fantastic short position to take. I might post that. I might post that. Actually, I don't know if I'm going to take that, to be honest. But if we look at the larger picture first, I just gotta keep that in mind. Question at hand, as always, is can we find an ABC? And is it possible that maybe we're done here? Or is this the beginning of something? Okay. You can make an argument for both. Me personally, I'm more on the fence that only for Soul is because it's so drastically different than what everything else is. I personally believe that we possibly have bottomed. That doesn't mean we can't put in more downside for at least a pullback, but I personally think we bottomed. But if this is going to be, if you want to make an argument for the bearish case, we do a possible very large A. We're working on possibly a very large B, and then we're going to come down, put in a very large, even larger C, or a very large C. If that is the case, I need to see this pivot of the low be broken. Let me get that right. Around $7.43.5. If that is the case, but we'll have to see what or how Soul develops in the future. We do have a bearish setup. Another possibility what could be happening if this is a bottom, we're working on some sort of larger A to some larger B before continuing higher for a C. That's very well in the cards as well. Going back to the smaller perspective that we usually trade, if Soul gives us a nice opportunity to go ahead and take a long position from somewhere down in this range, I definitely will take it and look to take the next leg. I definitely will consider taking it and try to ride the next wave up. That's pretty much it for Soul. That was a good one, Badarius. Let's see if anyone has any questions for me. Oh. Okay. Let's see. Thanks, but the exact entry is 26,840. You're never gonna let that down, aren't you, Badarius? Sorry, Badarius always likes to. He always used to. He likes to encourage me to use the magnet tool, and I'm just a little bit of a trading view boomer and refuse to do it. I'm stuck in my ways. All right, let's go over to traditional markets. And there's some interesting things I do want to talk about. I meant if you guys are in my group, you guys, I did talk about this as something to do that could impact on how things do play out. First, I want to focus on the SPY. All right. First thing I want to highlight is that we do have a larger A to a B to a C. The pivot is at around 362.36. If we do, if we have bottom, we put in a lower low, we reversed, and now we're continuing an uptrend. If we have put in a lower low, if this is the bottom, we did put in a lower low, and then we're going to go ahead and mark that as a possible end to a bear market here at around 362.60. Seeing how this is developing, I'm a little bit more on the fence of this being a larger A to a B to a C. Something like this. We do have a larger pivot of a B wave that we have to keep an eye on, and we're currently sitting under it. So as long as the SPY is below 410.91, I would definitely I would definitely say there's an argument that there is some bearish pressure. Sorry, not bullish, bearish. And we have a possibility you could put in one more lower low. If that is the case, I need to see that low be hit at around 347.72, and that would definitely show me a much larger completed structure. But just something to keep an eye on. We are currently above a more macro pivot of the A. We have a possibility of putting in a reversal off of this bear setup at around 410.91 being the entry, or 410.37. And then from there, we'll have to just see how price behaves. We are currently sitting underneath it, so it looks very interesting at the moment. I think ES is almost the same thing. It's just playing out a little bit different. Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. You have the bearish pivot here at around 41.79. We're currently holding underneath that, so we'll have to see how that holds. DXY, this is what I want to go over, because this is playing out very this is a very interesting situation. So for the DXY, there's a couple of things to keep an eye out on. Firstly, is that if I go to like a weekly chart, actually I might be able to get away with like a 5-day. Yeah, 5 days fine. If I go to a 5-day chart, we are currently sitting in a much larger A to a B to a C, right? And then within the C wave, we have a very large pivot of the A to a B to a C. And we are currently sitting below this macro pivot, right? So for the DXY, looks like we came up, put in a bearish, a bullish retest, and we're currently holding back underneath. If we can continue to hold below this pivot, this does not look good for the dollar. So you got to keep it, obviously, when it comes to the correlation between assets and the dollar. Anything bad for the dollar is good for assets. Anything good for the dollar is bad for assets. The inverse correlation. But keeping that in mind, we are still currently holding underneath this macro pivot. So this is very important to keep an eye on. If we can continue to maintain below this, I would be very bearish on the dollar. I'm just saying, that's just my personal opinion. And obviously the levels back it up. Oh shit. Let's see. The levels back it up. And to me, I would be a little bit concerned if we continue to, well, I guess optimistic for BTC if we continue to hold below. But let's focus on a little bit more of a smaller time frame here. It's still a large perspective, but this is a smaller time frame. We do have a larger, let me pull this down. Yeah. We do have a larger A to a B to a C. To be honest, that C leg is very extended. And there is its own ABC within this, but to me, it's very choppy and consolidated. This looks like one continuous downtrend to me. So I'm calling that an ABC. So, but we do have a possible bearish reversal here. Okay. We could possibly be working on another leg down. I don't know, to be honest. Like I said, because of how the DXY show how it behaves, it's kind of hard to break down this area of price action here. But to me, this looks like a possible continuation of a downtrend with a bearish reversal within the B. Okay. What that means is if I go to like a 1 hour, all right, or maybe a 30-minute. Like I don't normally trade the DXY, so the rules are gonna be a little bit different. But we have a bearish reversal off of this A to a B to a C. All right. This is a very good setup. I do like to see this. And we are currently holding beneath that pivot. So if we continue to hold beneath this, we definitely absolutely have a argument that there is a large possibility, and I would say arguably possibly in the favor of more downside to at least test the lower region of this low here at around $100.81. So that's very important to keep an eye on for me. If we continue to push past above this region, obviously, things aren't gonna look good for BTC. But we're at a very pivotal point, or at least we're at a crucial point of retesting the pivot of the A of the larger setup from the 2-week macro setup I told you, and also the smaller one too. So we'll have to see how it behaves, but definitely a crucial point for the DXY in my opinion. Let's do let's see, gold and silver real quick. So pretty much for gold, I've been looking at this as an ABC. All right. And then from there, as long as we're above this pivot here, gold's looking pretty good. But if we decide, there's a couple different things we got to look at as well. Is that if this is a completed setup, what does this look like? All right. To me, right off the bat, we're looking at possibly a larger ABC. I would like to see that before confirming a bearish reversal. To me, this looks like just a pullback, but we could easily continue down further. I really don't know where this B wave can go. The B wave can pretty much go all the way back down until it crosses over the 0. So it can go 99% and it would still be considered a B wave. I don't necessarily see that too often, but most of the time we do get a more of a larger pullback. But if we are going to come down here, most likely it's going to come back below and cross back below the 0. So that would be a little bit more of an invalid setup. But at the moment, we're not there yet. I'm keeping this eye on this pivot here about 1969. Was a good year. And then we'll have to see what gold has in store for us. If we can continue to the upside, we do have this bearish pivot to get above or to push through. If price does continue to come up to this region, if we can't hold above that 2075, I'd definitely be looking for some sort of larger reversal. But at the moment, we're not there yet. But I'm just going to keep an eye on those pivots because to me, those are very crucial pivots for me to keep an eye on. And we'll go ahead and, look further into it as we continue to progress up in these regions or determining how it behaves in these ranges here. That's pretty much it for gold. Let's do silver. Silver is pretty much the same. It's a little playing out just a little bit differently. We do have an ABC here. A, B, A to a B to a C. Now, it looks like we're putting in some sort of A to a, oh, I messed that up. Looks like we're putting in some sort of A to a B wave. And then I'm possibly looking for a continuation higher. We can easily just put in another high, put in a much larger bearish reversal, and then continue downward. Something like that. And that, if that's the case, I need to get back below 1753, and then we can look to be a little bit more bullish. The other option is that maybe we just put in a pullback and we just continue to push through. If we continue to push through, the next pivot I would like to be tested or CB tested is around that about the $30 mark, $30.10. But that's going to be the next bearish pivot for gold to get to and test and possibly reverse from. But yeah, that's pretty much it for gold. The main points for me. We're gonna do Vlad's favorite. BM to the W. Let's see. All right, so we do have a larger ABC. Let me go up. Let me go to like a 3-day. Okay, that's what I thought. So on the macro, we're looking at a possible A to a B to a C. If that is the case, I need to see that 123.45 level be broken to the upside. And from there, we can go ahead and dissect this a little bit more. There's an ABC within the B. Ultimately, I'm looking for an A to a B to a C within the C. But we could have some resistance along the way. Go ahead and talk about that. 8 hours, good. Did it put in a higher high? Oh, I think it's got a double top. Perfect. So at the moment, looks like BMW put in a double top. I need to see a break above that and then a confirm reversal, or at least I need the price to get back above and then back down below to confirm a possible reversal setup. That would look like this: an A to a B to a C. Now that's only if we don't hold. That's only if we don't hold back below that pivot. If we get back above and just push through, ultimately I'm looking at that 123.45 level to be broken, or at least to be tested and hopefully broken. But yeah, that's pretty much it for those are the main important levels for BMW. Does anybody else have anything you want me to look at?
Thank you very much, Johnny, for the BMW.
No problem. No problem, my friend.
Forgot I was on mute.
All right. Looks like I'm all caught up on questions. I don't believe I see anything else.
Amazing. Thank you very much for your presentation. Guys, be sure to also check Johnny's channel. Can you present it again, Johnny?
Yeah. I'll go ahead and pop it up here. It's Johnny Crypto. All right. If you guys want, I'll post a link in the chat for you guys. But if you guys go ahead and nope, that's not what I wanted to do. If you guys go to the homepage, you want to learn more about how I trade ABCs. It's pretty much on the homepage here. Gives you a little bit more of a brief overrun, as well as I stream 3 times a week, Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. So we've been streaming pretty consistently over the course of the last couple of years. Let's say about a year or so, year and a half. I've been consistently streaming. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to tune in during any of those streams and ask me any questions that you might have missed or may not have a chance to ask me if you're watching replay. But yeah, pretty much besides that, like I said, I'll drop it in the chat here. All right. And it links in the description below if you're watching on the YouTube and Twitch end. Like I said, I would appreciate the sub. I appreciate you guys coming over, saying hello, asking me good questions. I can go over. I use those as a platform as well as this to go ahead and go over anything and everything that I can. Nothing's off limits. So if you guys have any questions regarding setups, trading, and everything in between, please feel free to ask me. I invite you to go ahead and stop by and ask good questions, or at least stop by and say hello. I would greatly appreciate it. So guys, thank you very much. Until the next time, I'll be back here next week on David's channel. But if not, you guys can go ahead and check me out on my channel. But until then, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Be good, be safe. Everyone take care.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.